the majority of us here are, juniors, I would say. We got a few seniors. We got what do they call you? Huh? No, I know that. You're not a temple president, are you? You're Namahata leader or something. Okay, so you're a senior. You're a sort of temple president or something. You're a leader. And you? Oh, at Montaigne Blanche. Oh, I see, okay. So we'll say you're a junior, all right? Just, for the sake of the exercise. We've got a senior here. Oh, look, we've got a senior here. And so on. So now, we want to do something which is educational here. If you're a senior, we've got a few seniors here. Really what we want you to do is just analyze, think for just, a little while, and then write down, do you, if you're a senior, this is now I'm talking about seniors who are here, do you love your juniors, those who are serving under you? Do you? And how, to what degree, or what do you do to express your love? I basically want you to analyze a bit how you operate as a senior in relation, not in terms of do you get the programs organized or how's the care term, but of relationships with your juniors. How do you feel? I want you to think about it and write it down. How do you feel about your juniors? And do you feel, this is very important, do you feel they love you? How do you feel they see you? This is for seniors. And how could you do things better so that you would love them more and they might love you? So you get the idea? And do they express their love for you? If they do, how do they do it? And then how you feel you could do better as a senior. Then for juniors, we want you to write down how you feel. Do you feel? Like, to what degree do you feel your seniors love you? And how do you love, or how do you feel about your seniors? And how do you feel you could do better in your relationships with your seniors? Is it clear enough? Yeah? Okay. So please write it down. And what we're going to do, particularly for the seniors, because it's generally easier to be a junior than a senior. For the seniors, we may ask you to give them some feedback. But anyway, what we're going to do, you write these things down, and then we're going to have some discussions. And it's okay if seniors discuss with juniors, or with other seniors, or juniors with juniors. Okay, so we'll give you, say, 5 minutes or several minutes to think about these things and write some of these things down. anyone not clear enough on what they should be doing? Mother Vrajarani, are you clear enough? Oui? Merci beaucoup. Bien bon. Okay, so please start. I mean, this is real. Getting into the hearts of the relationships. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. Ram, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare 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 Ram, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram. I hope you're all writing things down. Écrivez, s'il vous plaît. Rama, Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama, Hare Hare. Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. And juniors, if you feel your seniors could do better, please write some advice for your seniors. Be compassionate though. We had one temple president in London, Soho Street, who got really inspired about this sort of idea. Really inspired. So he asked all the temple members, like 40 people, give me some advice. Tell me what I can do better, what I'm doing wrong. And he got so much advice, he resigned. Really, it's a historical fact. He just couldn't take it. I mean, there's so many people upset with him. Are you ladies at the back there? What are you doing, if you don't mind me asking? Oh, you're writing. Okay. Merci beaucoup. Continuez. Yeah, there's no rush. Give it thought. And then we'll try, I don't know how we'll do it exactly, but try to collect some of the advice. How to be a better senior, how to be a better junior. Anyway, we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it shortly. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, So we'll start discussing in a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes maybe. How can you be a better junior? How can the seniors be better seniors? Yeah. Hare Hare Hare. Hare Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram Hare Ram. Rama Rama Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Hare Hare. Okay, you can get into discussion now when you're ready. And it doesn't matter if you're a senior with a junior or a junior with a senior or just, whatever the arrangement. But let's share ideas and see what comes out. Okay? If you need to keep writing more, go ahead. But otherwise, I think we're ready to start discussing. LA. Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. You want a little more time, or you okay?
It's okay for us. It's okay for us.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Like a little more time, or you okay? I mean, you can have more time if you're not. I'm asking.
No.
You're okay?
A few minutes more.
Okay. Like a little more time, or you okay? You're good? Hare Krishna, ladies. You want a little more time, or you okay? A little more time, petit peu de temps.
It's okay.
How are you ladies doing? Anyway, you're into it. Empowered. Hope you're coming up with some good solutions. Like a little more time? Or are you okay? Fini? More or less. Okay, that's good. That's good. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, Devo, Kimania, Tayar hai. Okay. I mean, sometimes you get into these things, you could just go on forever, or at least for a long time, but anyway, we got to carry on. So, I would say particularly if any of the juniors in a nice spirit feel they'd like to submit some ideas to the seniors, how the seniors could possibly do things better, and vice versa. We could have some devotees compile some lists of ideas. Do any of you, like our devotees at the back, do you feel you've got some thoughts which would be of value to the seniors? Shamarani Devi does. Could someone compile a few of the ideas? And any of the seniors feel you've got some thoughts for the juniors? Or for other seniors? Anyway, okay, if you can, all right, that's good, thank you. What we're going to do now, we don't have a lot of time left, less than an hour. I wanted to, there's three more things I want to focus on. First is the idea of seeking to understand before trying to be understood. In other words, good listening. It's particularly important for seniors in dealing with juniors, but actually it's very important for everyone. Srila Prabhupada, when he was so to speak, a younger devotee, he went to, it's a place in Vrajmandala, what's it called anyway? Sheshashai, I don't know if you've been there. It's a really nice place, my Lord. Such a beautiful place. And so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was there with his parikrama party, hundreds or maybe thousands, I don't know, but a whole lot of devotees. And they had an evening program where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was giving a class, but as he was giving the class, then in the actual temple, the Sheshashai temple, it's famous old temple in Vrajmandala with this old deity, then the conch was blown for the arti. You may have read about it in the Leelamrita or somewhere. It's a well-known story. So, this class is going on. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is giving class. But then the conch was blown, and quite a number, like the majority of the devotees, got up and walked out of the class while it's going on, sort of the middle of the class or something like that. And they went to have darshan of the deity, or of the arti and like that. But Srila Prabhupada didn't. He stayed. And he listened to the class. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he gave long classes, often for a few hours, like 3 hours sometimes. So it was quite a lengthy class. Prabhupada stayed, and there was just a small number of others who stayed. Then, not long after, Srila Prabhupada received initiation from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And when the temple president of the Allahabad temple approached Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and said, we have this devotee, they called him Abai Babu. We have this Abai Babu, he would like to be initiated. What do you think? They're asking Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta immediately said, yes, I will accept him. He listens nicely. I have seen he listens nicely. So to be able to listen nicely, here we're talking about relationships between one type of person with another type. So that we can look at it in the subject in that sort of context, but just listening in general, shravanam, listening, for example, to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Sitting there listening. I mean, we're all in classes from time to time at least. But the mind, you know what the mind is like. It can easily go off, start thinking about other things. Yeah. So, but actually, Shravanam is the first of our processes. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Achanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. Prahlad Maharaj gives this list of 9 devotional activities. First is hearing. So it's important within the context of relationships. I'll talk about it a bit in that context now. But it's also just something we need to cultivate and work on and develop. The ability to listen and, like some conviction in our minds that I need to do this, I should do this, and I will do this. That sort of determination based on appreciating the value of doing it in general in our Krishna consciousness. So, okay, I want to go into it just a little bit here. Then I'm going to talk a bit about forgiveness and compassion. These are also important parts of devotee relationships we've mentioned briefly already. And then we're going to do a special kind of esoteric exercise called the appreciation exercise. I'll explain about that when we get there. So, but for the time being, regarding this idea, seek to understand before trying to be understood, particularly from the point of view of a senior dealing with a junior, here's some thoughts. If anything strikes you, feel free, of course, to write it down. So the thing is that in general, these days, there's an information overload in general with because of the internet. So much news and just information of all sorts. When I was young, back in the good old days, believe it or not, there was no internet. Can you believe it? There was life before the internet. And there were not even cell phones. Ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, well, it's not actually. When I was young, there was no television at all. And then television entered the scene. When I was young, there was just the radio. Otherwise, you just sit around talking in the evening. Yeah. So, but, there's an information overload now. It's just massive amounts of information just flying around. And therefore, the tendency is for the mind to get overloaded. And one manifestation of that is an inability to focus. Because you start focusing on one thing and something else comes up, something different. Yeah, so this is a real problem. I saw a cartoon, like a little comic strip the type you get in the newspapers. There are these two men walking along, and one says to the other, this attention, deficiency or deficit syndrome, this inability to focus the attention, it's really a serious problem. People just can't focus their attention. And his friend says, yeah, it's a problem. It's like this and like that. There's too much to focus on and too many things to listen to and read. And yeah, you get splayed out. And then the first fellow who brought up the idea says, what are you talking about? Anyway, you didn't get that, did you? Because he wasn't paying attention. Yeah. So, as devotees, because hearing is the first part of the process, then we need to give it special attention. So, the result of this, one of the results of being overloaded and therefore not able to focus and concentrate and get into something, some subject matter, it leads to, a few things it leads to, but one is a feeling of being disconnected in general from other people and from what's going on. Because quality listening is not taking place. And, a lot of times people have like a longing. They really want to be listened to. Not because they think they're brilliant and they got some great idea to help the world, but they have concerns and things which are important to them, and they want some communication. So there is often with people a real deep longing to be listened to. Yeah. So to be sort of accepted by another person and taken seriously, given attention to, because in that way they feel connected. And, they want to feel connected in a way which isn't superficial and just, there's no real heart in it. So therefore, when juniors come to seniors, the seniors need to hear properly. They really do. So therefore, I've said already, it's like a golden rule. Yeah, and there even, there's sort of things you can do to help you learn how to listen. Have you heard of reflective listening? It's a particular discipline which people get trained in. If they're managers, they get trained in reflective listening. Means that someone is explaining something to you, something which it means something to them, and they want to convey it to you. So there they are, and they're explaining their things. Reflective listening means that you're listening, and then at certain points as they're saying things, you repeat those things back to them. That's the reflection. You reflect it back. And in that way, they understand that you are listening. So there are other ways of, like connecting with people better while listening. But there are seminars on reflective listening, actually. Yeah. And often these people, you don't have to repeat everything, but every now and then you repeat something back to them that they've said. And then often from those people, the junior who wants to be heard, they have a feeling of like deep relief that I'm being taken seriously, and what comes out is going to be of value to me. So yeah, like this, connection is made. So, you maybe, if you're a senior, particularly if you're really a senior, then, you've sort of heard it all. You've heard it all. Every type of problem that could be imagined, you've heard them all. And you've given solutions for them all. Yeah. So there's a tendency for seniors that their intelligence, you could say it this way, their intelligence, meaning their natural ability to respond effectively, their intelligence and their experience gets in the way of the interaction. It actually interferes with the interaction because they're too quick to give solutions and comment, without having really taken it in. And the person who wants to be heard may, in many cases, understands that I'm not being heard and I'm not really being taken seriously. So therefore our own experience and even intelligence may become a blockage to real hearing. So therefore, if you're a senior and you're listening, someone is explaining their situation to you, then there's a real need for self-awareness in the sense of, how am I reacting to this? And to be conscious, evaluate how I should react, when I should react, and when I should not react. Yeah, I'm one of those people. I've had many things presented to me. I don't know if you're aware. The worst thing, the heaviest thing I had presented to me was one day one young man and his mother came to see me in Johannesburg quite a while ago, probably more than 10 years ago. And the mother said, my son wants to explain something to you, to me. And the young man said, yeah, yesterday I killed my wife. Because he killed his wife. Yeah, wow. It's the only time I've had that happen. I've had, all sorts of other things almost that bad. Anyway, so my point is, we've got to be self-aware and we've got to be tuned in. We really got to be tuned in, particularly as seniors, but just in general, like hearing classes, reading Prabhupada's books. We've got to be able to tune in. So, for you as an experienced devotee, you may have helped hundreds of devotees solve problems in their lives, but in order to really be able to tune in and hear properly, you need some humility to put aside your, sort of innate, unconscious conviction about yourself that you're able to just answer and sort things out just on the spot and without too much trouble. So humility, if we just feel a drive that I'm going to, quote unquote, I'm going to fix the problem, then we won't have the humility to hear through the person. Our humility will not be operative, but we'll just be in fix the problem mode. So it's a goal like that I just want to fix the problem. It has nothing to do with humility. And it really has nothing to do with good listening. So we're presenting this in the context of how seniors should deal with juniors, but it's applicable amongst equals as well. It's applicable in so many situations. So the problem is, in a position of leadership, like official seniority, then you often feel the need to give solutions when situations are presented, and that way you manifest a controlling tendency, Ishvara Bhava, the controlling tendency, not the mercy tendency, the kindness tendency to really want to actually help in real and meaningful ways. So we really need to be in the mood of servant leaders or servant seniors. And if we're really in that mood, then our approach will be different. You'll feel a readiness to receive. Not just a readiness to just give, but a readiness to receive. And in that way, when the time comes, you will actually be able to present in such a way that First of all, you will really understand the situation. Second of all, the person you're dealing with will feel that trust that this person is interested and wants to help me. And then because you heard and you're in the right mood of wanting to help, Krishna will empower you and you'll actually be able to help them. So therefore, devotees, even if this is the only thing you take away from this whole seminar, but it'll be good for you. Seek to understand before trying to be understood. So that's that. Now the next thing is, let me ask you a question. Do any of you have any questions, just as a matter of interest at this stage, about anything that we've been going through? Wow. Okay, not yet. I just want to find out if anyone has. Okay, one has. That's you. Okay. We can have some questions at the end. But let me just carry on. I want to go into the subject of forgiveness. In relationships, I already mentioned forgiveness is important. We mentioned that in the context of developing a relationship into a long-term relationship. Yeah. Forgiveness, at some point, or probably from time to time, forgiveness will have to be there. Yes, otherwise, you're just going to get upset and it'll damage the relationship. So, we need devotees as devotees. We need to sort of isolate within ourselves. We need to figure out what it is that makes it difficult for us to forgive. I mean, assuming you have such a difficulty, which generally everybody does. Yeah. So what is it? If you have some difficulty forgiving people who've insulted you, for example, or maybe even, stolen from you. I mean, people who've actually inflicted really something negative on you. So we need to understand what is it in us which makes it at least difficult for us to forgive. And then, by extension, we need to see or try to figure out, I mean, it can take time and meditation and prayer to see how that tendency or that inability to forgive affects other relationships. Because it may sort of pervade the consciousness to some degree. So we need to consider this. That's what I'm saying here. I'm asking you to consider what it is about you, about your internal workings, that makes it difficult for you to forgive sometimes, and may affect your other relationships. And we'd like you to consider changing your perspective on hurt, your own hurt, when you've been hurt by someone else. To view hurt a change of perspective, a change of heart, to view hurt as a wonderful opportunity to grow in compassion and empathy. It's an opportunity now, instead of just being something which fries your brain and fries your emotions. And we would like you to consider that forgiveness or not forgiveness is a choice. It's not just, spontaneous reaction, spontaneous combustion or something like that. It's actually a choice. To forgive, you can choose, or you can forgive, I will not forgive. And then, you continue carrying it with you. And if you get into thinking about it a little bit, you'll realize that forgiveness is easier to do than you expected. Yeah. And then we'd like you to meditate. This is just for yourselves to do, in your time, for your own development, to appreciate how an unforgiving heart only hurts you. It doesn't hurt the person who hurt you. That person's carrying on in their lives. But an unforgiving attitude within you only hurts you. Therefore, it's a real, liability in your life. And then try to accept the idea within your heart that hurt provides many wonderful lessons which enhance your life. Yeah. So these are some thoughts on forgiveness. People do, and we do sometimes, whole seminars like this only on forgiveness as such, only. Yeah. It's because it's a deep subject and it's a very beneficial subject. So that's something about forgiveness. Now, I want to do what we call the compassion exercise, devotees. This is a little extraordinary, but I want you to do it anyway. Just, seeing you here, let's do it. Let's get into it. So the compassion exercise means that there are basically 5 steps in it. First step is, the foundation is, we want you now, devotees, to pick a person, think of a person who has hurt you. Who has hurt you? And then do the following 5 things with them. I imagine someone's hurt you in the past. Okay, so now I want you to think, have you got a person? Are you thinking of a person? Can you think, has there been anyone in your life who hurt you? So it hurt. Anyway, I'm assuming there has been. All right, so now, while thinking of that person, now you're picturing the person in your mind. Just say to yourself, in your mind, just say to yourself, you don't have to say it out loud, so just follow me. Just like me, this person is seeking some happiness for his or her life. Just think about that while picturing that person. So yeah, just like me, this person is seeking some happiness in his or her life, of course, yeah. Then step 2, you're thinking of the person throughout, you're thinking of this person, picturing this person, and you think within your mind, just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering in his or her life. Just consider that while picturing that person, that just like me, nothing different from me in principle, this person's trying to avoid suffering in their life. And step 3, there are 5 steps. Same thing, attention on the person, and just say to yourself within your mind, just like me, this person has known sadness, loneliness, and despair. Just like me. This person has known sadness, loneliness, and despair. Because it's true. It's very true. So just consider that in your mind while picturing the person. Then 4th step, attention on the person, repeat to yourself. Just like me, this person is seeking to fulfill his or her needs in life. Just like me, this person is seeking to fulfill his or her needs in life. And then the 5th step, attention on the person, and repeat to yourself, just like me, this person is learning about life. Just like me, this person's learning about life. So from time to time, we'd like you to just go through this step-by-step process. And the end result, we've done it many times with many devotees. And the end result, what comes generally, is a sort of mellowing of the feeling towards that person who hurt you. And rather, anyway, just a more balanced type of a perspective on them, and more of feeling of appreciation and compassion. Yeah, even though the person puts you in some sort of stupid situation. So, okay, that's something about forgiveness, compassion. Now, devotees, if you thought that was esoteric, like unusual, different, wait till you do this one. This is really great, actually. But you have to be willing to give yourself to it and not think, now, what are we doing here? This is, the appreciation exercise. And, most of you, usually we do it after 3 or 4 days. Everyone has been sitting next to the same person, same people, which you're generally doing actually. And you may already know the people well, or you may not know them well, or whatever it is, but now you've been together for a few days, so, you know, there's a connection there. There's a connection. So the appreciation exercise goes something like this. That you can do it in twos, you can do it in threes, you can even, if you want, you can do it in fours, but twos and threes, it works great. That you, person number one, you have to figure out who's number one, who's number two, and number three. If there's three of you, someone has to volunteer to be person number one. So, okay, choose who's person number one. You got person number one nailed down? He's person number one. You're person number one there. You got person number one. Okay, so person number one has to say to, first of all, person number two, and after that, if there's three, then to person number three, you have to express some appreciation for person number two. Right. And if you just never met the person before in your life, and you only known them for some hours here, at least you can appreciate that, you stuck it out in the seminar. You didn't just walk out. But try and think of some appreciation, particularly if you know the people, it's easier. And you speak some appreciation from the heart. Not just like, oh, look, you got a nice watch. It's not that good, actually, but anyway, nothing like that. But something from the heart, genuine. Yeah. And now, but that's not all. When you are now being appreciated, you're now person number two, and person number one is expressing appreciation, then don't do the usual very nice devotee thing, like, no, I'm just, I'm a useless. Don't do that. Don't do anything. Just say, thank you. That's all. And then, if there's three of you, person number one does the same with person number three, and then you all do it. You get me? It's a little unusual, but it's really nice. And I can almost guarantee, at least my experience, is after we've all done this, the whole thing, everyone feels really good, really satisfied and happy. Okay, so there you go, person number one. You got to think of some, genuine thing, and then just say it. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare So 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we'll see if anyone has or we have one question. See if anybody else has questions also. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Okay, Devo. Okay, bien bon. Merci beaucoup. Anyone? Well, we had Mother Vrajarani had a question. Did all of you get the opportunity to express appreciation? Not everyone. Who didn't get a chance? Anyway, I tell you what, I'll take a question now at the end. You can do it, all right? And then there's a final step to the whole thing. But so, Mother Vrajarani, what was your question, please?
What happens if the seniors who take advantage of the problem of the juniors?
What happens to the senior who takes advantage of the problem of the junior? Right. You know, we didn't get, anyway, yeah. They get the hot chili sauce from Yamaraj. And not this my Yamaraj, but the Yamaraj. Yeah. You know, any abuse of a junior by a senior, whoa, there'll be very severe reactions. You know, I imagine all of you, or I'm sure at least some of you are aware of what has recently happened in Mayapur with that one devotee, you know, who was kind of famous or well-known devotee. Wow. But he abused juniors. Really, I mean, it's just beyond shocking. And, you know, what's the future of his life? He's got no future in ISKCON. He's got no future. He's got no future. You know, his future, he has destroyed his future. Yeah, which he deserves, unfortunately. I know him to some degree, not well, but he was quite respected for being knowledgeable, basically. But he's finished. So anyone who does things like that, abuse a junior, don't worry, it will catch up with them. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, I'm also involved in a different case that you would never have heard a thing about, but it's also a type of social abuse. It's not I mean, it's not nearly as bad at all, but it's painful, like of insults. And the one person who was insulted has this idea of, the one who did the insulting should have been punished more. They got some punishment, but should have been punished more. Otherwise, it's not fair on them, the person who was abused. But, I've tried to tell them that, that's your opinion, it may or may not be accurate, but the thing is, don't worry, Krishna is still God. And, if devotees try to sort out some sort of clash, try their best to sort it out, but, these things are usually, the whole situation is usually pretty confused and confusing. So if they have made mistakes in sorting it out and, like that, and the person particularly who was abused doesn't feel properly protected or like that, then the fact is that Krishna will take care of things. And ultimately we have to have that faith. I mean, if there's been real negligence in sorting it out, then, that should be taken up. Should be taken up. But at the end, maybe the person was under-disciplined or over-disciplined. It can happen either way. But one way or another, Krishna will balance things out. Yeah. So, if we're aware of such a thing happening, if it's within our power, we should try and get something done to, see it's dealt with adequately. But the bottom line at the end is that Krishna will take care. Yeah. Is that okay? In other words, just a sec. We shouldn't take the law into our hands and start taking the position of Krishna or Yamaraj, the Punisher. No, that's not for devotees. Yes, Mataji. Loud and clear.
If someone is taking advantage of his seniority and trying to control the junior,
Right.
like you have to always ask permission before doing something, how do you react to that?
Okay. You mean, you said you have to ask permission for everything. Okay. Well, a simple beginning to trying to do something about it, which may well be too simple and it not sufficient to actually rectify, would be to just nicely try to say to the senior that, can we do it a little differently in some way or another? If that doesn't work, which, it may well not work, particularly if they're attached to their position of seniority and if they feel they're getting some advantage out of it and they like it, then the next step would be, which, it's confrontational, but to take it to higher authority. Yeah. Usually you need to do that. If you sort of fight back, it may become messy and painful, even more painful actually. So generally, if you can't sort it out with the person, try and maybe not take it to authority immediately, although you could, but you could also, a good thing to do, which is done, is to take it to someone who is either on the same level as that person or even a bit senior, and who knows the person, and who, the person, the offender, takes seriously, and try and get them to, nicely put it to them. And if the person, the offender, is reasonably sincere and not just like a rascal, then they may well listen to someone who they normally listen to. But for you, if you're just a junior, then you're just sort of, maybe not exactly disposable, but not taken very seriously. Like, you have to listen. Yeah. Now, if you're talking about a service situation, an authority, your authority in your service in ISKCON, you could also, it would depend on the situation and how you feel about the service you're doing, but you could always change your service and just escape from the person. That's also a possibility. But somewhere amongst those would be, I would say, what you could call the right thing to do, the morally right thing to do. If you take it to higher authority, there's a distinct possibility the offender is going to get angry with you. That you have to be ready for. And that may well mean the end of the relationship anyway. Yeah. How does that sound?
Can I speak to you afterwards?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Anyone else? We've got plenty of time. Yes. Hare Krishna.
In our movement, there is that concept of Vaishnava approach.
Right.
Sometimes we are stressed to voice our things because we fear of Vaishnava approach, and sometimes I feel the leaders also fear to give instruction because of this concept of Vaishnava approach. So I would like to know what you have to say on this.
Someone may be afraid to give instruction. You mean like an authority? I see. Yeah, okay, all right. If you've got a responsibility in service, like you're an authority, maybe you're a president, temple president, or department head, like the head pujari or the head of the kitchen or something like that. Or maybe if you are the head of the construction of the new temple or the engineering of it. The thing is, you have a responsibility in service, and which in so many cases will at least occasionally include having to correct someone who is doing something wrong. Like actually wrong. And you need to do something about it. Some things you can just ignore, but some things you can't ignore. So then you have to take it up. You can't just let it go. But then the next question is, how are you going to take it up? Including Well, strategically, but also like your mode of presentation, your mood of presentation, these types of things. Because, I mentioned about, I don't want to mention it too often, but being able to tell a person to go to hell. You remember that, don't you? How could you forget? Yeah, but in so nicely that even though you've said something bad to the person, but because you've done it so nicely, they think, wow, that's great. Thank you for telling me to go and jump in the lake. I'm really looking forward to it. No kidding. That is expert. There are different levels of expertise. But the thing is, there are different ways of putting the same thing. There is a famous example, so famous, none of you may have heard of it. But anyway, there's a famous example. 3 people, what is it now? One person is expressing his opinion about himself and expressing his opinions on 2 other people to them. So he said about, how he presents things and how they present things. I hope you got that preamble. So he says, me, I am strong-willed. You are stubborn. And you, the third person, you are pig-headed. So you see, it's a classic. He's said the same thing. It's the same thing, but in 3 ways. So if he said to the one, you are strong, the one he said, you are pig-headed. If he said, you're strong-willed, he's saying the same thing, but it's much more easily digestible. So therefore, if you're dealing with people, you have to learn. You've got to get the message through. You've got to get the message through so it registers, oh, right, okay, some action has to be taken. But you've got to do it, or at least learn, and it may take years to learn, but, one should go through the process and try and think, use the intelligence, pray to the Lord to help, how to present these types of corrective things, but in such ways that the person comes out at the end thinking, thank you, you've helped me to understand, something that I really needed to do for my own benefit. Rather than just, yourself letting off steam, just shouting at a person just because you just feel angry with them. Like Mother Yashoda tied up Krishna. And you know what Krishna did? It was really bad. Krishna wasted hundreds of liters of dairy products. And, at today's prices, how much is a liter of milk or cream or a kilo of butter? It's all wasted. It's just got to be thrown away. He's feeding it to the monkeys. So, it's like many thousands of rupees of wastage. Such a nonsense. Many parents would have picked up a stick. Well, she picked up a stick too. But they would have gone and smashed him with a stick. Many parents would do that. or at the very least screamed at him. I mean, just really given him a piece of their mind. But not Mother Yashoda. She understood, I have to do something which will be effective in correcting him, so for his benefit. Otherwise, if I don't do it in such a way that he gets the message in sort of like constructive ways, like, yeah, right, I've got to do this and this instead of what I've done, she was afraid he would have grown up to become a mafia man. Now he's stealing butter. In the future, he's going to be stealing motor cars or buffalo carts or something. That was her concern, that he's going to grow up bad, and I must correct him so he gets the message. I must not be bad himself, without just being screamed at that, look at you, what you're doing, all that sort of thing. So she was very strategic about it. Yeah, really strategic. And an interesting point is, Jiva Goswami explains in Gopal Champu, you can read it if you read that chapter, it's really, really wonderful. He says Krishna initially, Nanda Maharaj arrived on the scene. There's Krishna, he knocked down the trees, but he's still tied up. And Nanda Maharaj says to Krishna, who tied you up? And Krishna says, it was Mata. And Nanda Maharaj says, why did she tie you up? And Krishna says, I don't know. Yeah. And Nanda Maharaj says, well, you must have done something bad, otherwise she wouldn't tie you up. And Krishna says, no, I didn't do anything bad. And so Nanda Maharaj says, all right, anyway, why don't you go to your mother? Because she's, on the other side. Why don't you go to your mother now? It's all over. And Krishna says, no, I'm not going to her. She tied me up. And Nanda Maharaj says, well, what are you going to do then today? Because it's in the morning. And Krishna says, I'm going to go with you. And Nanda Maharaj says, but I'm going out in the fields. We're moving around with the cows, and Krishna says, that's all right. I'm going to come anyway. And Nanda Maharaj says, well, how are you going to drink? What milk are you going to drink? Because he drinks her breast milk. What milk are you going to drink? Krishna says, I will milk a cow and drink some of the cow's milk. Krishna's really in a mood. So Nanda Maharaj, he understands that beneath the surface there's very deep affection in Krishna's heart, and he's just being, a character. So Nanda Maharaj raises his hand and says, just tell me and I'll beat her. And Krishna says, no. And he stops Nanda Maharaj. He wasn't going to beat her, but it's just a trick to bring out Krishna's feelings. And so Krishna says, no, don't hit her. And then Nanda Maharaj says, all right, so now you go to her. And so Krishna goes to her, and he's crying, and she's crying. And as they say, they all lived happily ever after. But anyway, that she didn't just have an outburst. Because outbursts, it's very rare that they're effective in producing, better behavior. Yeah. So, what do you think of that?
Amazing. I got amazing.
Huh?
I got an amazing with her.
Oh, okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Bol. Anyone else? Okay. I see Prasad has arrived, and Prasadam takes precedence. You want to say something? Yeah, okay. Last one.
About forgiveness in Maharaj.
About forgiveness.
It's about the statement that you can forgive but never forget.
Okay, that's an important question. We may forgive, but we may not be able to forgive, or never forgive. Forget. May not be able to forget. Yeah, it just means, it's the effect of Maya. Yeah, because we are just harming ourselves by carrying this unpleasantness around with us. Yeah. So it's an aspect of forgiveness which needs to be worked on. To forgive, well, it means you haven't really forgiven. Yeah, you haven't really forgiven. Maybe superficially, they say, oh, okay, Haribol. But you haven't really forgiven. And ultimately, the problem with not forgiving is that you hurt yourself. You basically, it's pretty much impossible to hurt the other person, although you're thinking about hurting the other person, but actually you're only hurting yourself. So, yeah. And if the other person, particularly in the society of devotees, if the person who hurt you, who offended you, sees that despite what a nonsense they've been, that you have actually risen above it and come to the level of real Krishna consciousness, then, generally, at least amongst reasonable devotees, they will appreciate that very much. And then they will really, really feel regret for having done whatever nonsense they did. So, it's a bad habit, it's a conditioned habit to superficially, just on the surface, say, oh, all right, but in your heart, the problem is still there. Yeah. It becomes like a cancer. Yeah. Cancer is a relentless enemy. But in this case, we should remove the cancer from our hearts. Yeah. Of course, if the person did something which was like illegal, criminal, dangerous, something bizarre, crazy, then it has to be reported and dealt with. But, here's something that this is just really, it's just so amazingly interesting. In the first canto, when Maharaj Parikshit confronts, not just before, immediately before he confronts Kali, he asks the bull who's standing on 3 legs, or who only has 3 legs. He asks them, who did it to you? And everybody knows who did it to him. It was Kali. But The bull, the personality of religion, says, you know what he says? Have you read that part? I would have to look it up to see the verse number. But he says, I don't know who did it to me. He knows who did it to him. But he says, I don't know. And then he explains how things happen to people because of their karma. So he says, well, maybe it was my karma. Maybe it was the Lord's arrangement. He presents a few possibilities how his legs got cut off. Although on the surface level, it's obvious. It was this Kali, this total rascal. But in the end, Parikshit congratulates him and says, from your response, I can tell you are the personality of religion, because you know that the one who commits the crime, well, the one who identifies the perpetrator, you understand perpetrator? The one who commits, the one who identifies the perpetrator of the crime is as guilty as the one as the perpetrator. Oh, that's pretty way out. That's really something. Because, the fact is, if someone comes up to you and just, let's say, not too heavy thing, they just come up and tell you you're a dirty, rotten something or other, just something verbal. And, you feel, people feel insulted, and, they would like something done. But why, on the greater, broader scale, why did the person insult you? Because in the past, you insulted someone. Yeah. And now you're just getting it back. So if you had not insulted the other person, you would not have been insulted. So effectively, ultimately, you have insulted yourself. You get the idea? You have actually insulted yourself. So therefore, to identify the perpetrator, this is the person responsible, punish him. To identify the perpetrator, Parikshit, I think it's Parikshit himself says, the identifier is as guilty as the perpetrator. Yeah. It's deep. It's really deep. But it's true. Because behind every, disaster or problem that arises, it's not just on the surface. There's a whole complex background. And therefore, the surface level is often very misleading. And one has to look at the deeper levels. Otherwise, you just miss the point. And you get caught up. You become part of the problem instead of part of the solution. How does that sound? That's one of the deepest parts of Srimad Bhagavatam. It really is. Okay, devotees. So the prasadam is there. I want you to do one more thing. Please stand up. Levez-vous, s'il vous plaît. Now, the men, we want you, not we just want you must embrace the man who's next to you, and the ladies, you must embrace the lady who's next to you. There's devotee relationships. Go on. And thank you for participating in this seminar. I'm sorry it was a bit spaced out. I haven't done it for 5 years. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.